Hey everyone, today we have a blue, red, or sapphire ruby deck tech for you. This deck tech is not going to have the same editing and production value as other deck techs previously on the channel. We're doing that because we want to get this list out to you quick for the store championships. We believe this is the most powerful deck in the metagame right now. It is a little bit contextual on what metagame will show up to your store championships. If you do live in an area where there is a lot of aggro or something like that, maybe this will not be the right pick. But for Pixelborn right now, and for I think the most current metagame that will likely show up to your store championships, we believe that this is the best version of blue-red, and we think it's extremely well positioned. So we're just pumping this video out to get you the list and get you this sweet deck that you can bring to the store championships. Anyway, enjoy. I'm joined by Moyen, Grandmaster, and very close to Wegron at this point, once again, to go over this Ruby Sapphire deck. Moyen, hit it from the top. Where do you think the deck is positioned right now, in terms of the Lorcana metagame? What do you think about its matchup spread? Is there anything particularly, does it have any particular bad matchups that are actually showing up? And then can you extrapolate that slightly to how do you think it'll perform in the store championships specifically?
So I think that the deck's great. The better your opponents are, the better the deck gets. It's from the top decks, it's the one that has the best matchups against the other top decks. It absolutely crushes Sapphire Steel and Ember Steel. The only place where it really struggles is against the quicker Emerald decks. Emerald Steel, it struggles a little bit, but it's beatable. And then Emerald Amethyst or some janky aggressive decks that you could find in store champs would be its biggest weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. So the core of the blue-red deck has been around for a while, and there's definitely been some lists that have been floating around for a few weeks they're very popular, and very similar at that. We've decided to make some changes from the norm, some very important changes. That being said, there is part of the blue-red deck that is just never going to change. It is absolutely core, and that really comes down to, just hanging from the top, this Flaversham draw package, just absolutely critical. Flaversham in combination with the Pawpsicle. You also have ramp tools in the form of one jump ahead, as well as the Fishbone Quill. So these are cards that we think are absolutely core to the deck. You would never switch them out. There is literally no situation that is not contextual whatsoever. We also have the 4 Be Prepared for removal. So what makes this deck so important is we think that the metagame is sectioned off in sort of, there's a dichotomy in the metagame right now. You either want to be playing whole new world decks, or you want to be playing decks that are good into a whole new world. And for the decks that fall into tier 1 for us, that's Amber Steel, Blue Red, which you have here, and Blue Steel. We think that, that does follow that dichotomy, right? Blue Red is the best deck into those two other tier 1 decks, in our opinion. So like I said, some of this deck is very core. It's not going to change at all, but we've decided to add a bit of spice here. And let's just go ahead and hit that spice from the top, Moyen. I'm going to start off with Belle. Strange but special. How has Belle made it back into the deck? I mean, it's still a Madame Medusa world, right? Every single red deck is playing, over 2 Medusa, sometimes 4. How have you ended up back on Belle, and what is the function of this card in the deck now?
So first of all, there's a new focus song in the deck that we'll get to that makes Belle a tiny bit better. But I think other than that, it's just without the Belle, this deck can often ramp into high ink counts and then still feel clunky and not be able to do multiple things a turn. And then the biggest weakness regarding that is just that when you play a version without Belle and you drop your dime, you often have to take off your entire turn, while it's much easier to fit in the dime, Belle, and activate it, or just the dime and the Belle without the activation, and just do multiple things in these later game turns. So playing for Belle will help you finish the games extremely quickly once you do stabilize and then get your card draw going as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you'll see it into the gameplay, or you'll see it in the gameplay we're about to go into, but the way you utilize and play your Belle is very important. For instance, I mean, if I could give you a quick heuristic and a quick anecdote, I would say playing your Belle on turn 4 or like turn 6 before you're at 10 ink and just letting it sit on the battlefield waiting to get removed, not usually how we utilize the card. There are going to be some situations where you can do something like that, but Belle is more of a kind of combo-esque card. Not necessarily, you don't always have to play it with the Lucky Dime, but it is a card that is highly likely to be removed. You need to be thinking about how you're going to play the card throughout the game, because pretty much all of your opponents are going to have access to things like Madame Medusa, Lady Tremaine, just tons of removal. That being said, it's still a crazy powerful card, and I think the reason it hasn't made it into a lot of lists is because a lot of people are actually underutilizing it or misplaying it. All right, let's talk about that critical song. We do have 3. How far I'll go. We're not the first people to put this in the blue-red list, but I think it's becoming a more popular pick. Talk to me about the power of this card specifically.
To talk about that card, I think first we need to talk about Let It Go, because that was the first big change that one of the top 4 lists in Poland made, where they were playing 3 Let It Go, which was very uncommon for red-blue lists. And it all comes down to this deck having great high-cost characters whose bodies are no longer that important after you played them. So Maui excels at singing Let It Go, and Medusa also excels at singing Let It Go. But at the same time, all of these cards are very good at singing How Far I Go, and also both Gramma, Tala, and Flaversham that you can just play on turn 3 after the 1 jump ahead are very good at singing the song.
Mm-hmm.
So this How Far I Go is a 4-cost uninkable song that draws 1 and inks 1. So you get to look at the top 2 cards, draw 1, ink 1. And that just helps solve one of the core issues of this deck, is that it's not, you don't have Holy World. Inking your entire hand comes at the cost of hand size, and this just lets you ramp in a way where you don't sacrifice so much hand size and can continue playing out the game. So playing this on turn 3 after 1 jump ahead just immediately enables you to play a 6-drop on your turn 4, which can already help stabilize the board very well without sacrificing too much hand size. And then also you can just there's a very strong curve in the deck where you just go Pawpsicle on 1 jump ahead on 2, and then either of the 4 drops on 3. And on your 5 ink turn, you'll just sing How Far I Go and play the Maui. So you keep ramping, keep high hand size, and also play something strong for the board.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of how this deck differentiates from other decks, there are, of course, the cards we've added, but there are some cards we've taken out. And I would say when it comes to blue-red, we've kind of committed a bit of a sin, right? Probably in the eyes of the community, we've decided to play 0 Develop Your Brain. Develop Your Brain has been looked at as a core card in blue-red. The reason for that is because although this is a turbo ramp deck, this deck is ramping to high amounts of ink at any given game. I'm often finding that this blue-red list is still playing on curve. So the opportunity cost of going -1 ink to look at the top 2 cards of your deck and cantrip, which is what Develop Your Brain does, has felt like a big opportunity cost. Like you don't have access to that 1 ink all the time, and it is not an effective tool to do such a thing. Also, when you talk about card quality in blue-red is one of the best decks in the game because of the highest card quality, right? The deck that's coming off the top of your deck, it's probably going to impact the board state. That being said, there are some cards that don't do that. 1 jump ahead, things like How Far I Go, they're impactful to your game plan, right? They're ramping you and they're drawing another card, they're cantripping, but they're not that immediate board impact that you sometimes need. They're not critical to the deck's, draw game plan or combo game plan in the form of Lucky Dime. And we look at something like Develop Your Brain as another sort of whiff like that. So the idea of taking Develop Your Brain out is that, 1, we're playing on curve, so we don't really have enough ink to utilize that. The opportunity cost is quite large. Also, it is kind of a whiff a lot of the times. Like, yes, it does dig you cards, but at the cost of -1 ink. It's like oftentimes you'd rather just, in my opinion, rip off an actual impactful card in that situation. And it really, I mean, at the end of the day, if you had infinite ink, you would just play Develop Your Brain 100%. And I think people get into this mindset that blue-red has a almost infinite amount of ink to play with because it's ramping at such high levels. And we found that Develop Your Brain, the cost of casting that card and actually going -1 ink to look at those 2 cards is actually quite high in a deck like this. Moyen, just want to get your thoughts on cutting the Develop Your Brain as well.
To me, what you're talking about is less the reason that I'm cutting it. I think in part it is the reason, because even at high ink totals, you can totally spend all your ink in a lot of turns still, even without the Develop Your Brain. But to me, it's also happened quite a lot that against both Amber Steel and Sapphire Steel, you need to be very careful about how many cards you go into later into the game, into your deck, because otherwise you might lose if they can chain a back-to-back whole new world. And that is even more of an issue now if we were to play 4 Develop Your Brain, 4 One Jump Ahead, and 3 How Far I Go, because How Far I Go is another card that helps us with our game plan, but it doesn't really do something for the board or for finishing the game in terms of using a card from your deck for this. So I just ran into that issue quite a bit, and I think without the Develop Your Brain, that will be far less of an issue.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Just looking at this deck, let's talk about the sort of core game plan. And I want to specifically kind of hit like Mulligan is a different section, but I want to hit on it. I just want to talk about the importance of a card like Hiram Flaversham. So blue, like this archetype, blue red, specifically into whole new world decks, it is absolutely trying to ink as many cards as possible, dump its hand, potentially have a backup Flaversham with Pawpsicle just in case your opponent is not going to whole new world you, and they're also going to play their Hiram Flaversham so you can keep up with card draw. But I would say oftentimes, especially when you're not playing into whole new world decks, it is extremely critical to find your Hiram Flaversham plus Pawpsicle in your opening hand. This deck, without its draw engine, can be quite weak. That is where the deck stumbles, right? Is when it doesn't find Hiram plus 1-drop, which is why we've had the extra Shield of Virtues. Of course, we have the Pawpsicles, but finding that Hiram and that draw engine is critical to doing what blue-red wants to do every single game.
Yes, this deck also is very true to itself. It doesn't try to entertain the fact that games without Flaversham are very playable. We only play 2 copies of the Gramma Tala. There's no Gaston in the list, so you will be very reliant on that. And I think if we bridge into the Mulligan section, that it also shows you how important it is to be very aggressive to Mulligan for Ramp, yes, but also for the Flaversham.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and hop right into that Mulligan section. Just real quickly, just talk to me about how you Mulligan specifically against whole new world decks. So the other two, in our opinion, top decks in the format, which is Amber Steel and Blue Steel, and how you Mulligan against pretty much everything else.
So against whole new world decks, you're definitely looking for the ramp. You're looking for the 1-jump ahead, the Quill, the How Far I Go. And also against whole new worlds, I will often play the How Far I Go on 4 instead of playing the Flaversham to draw 2 and then singing How Far I Go, because it might not get to that point. So that's a big difference. While against other decks, it's you are more incentivized to mulligan for the Pawpsicle 1-jump ahead into Flaversham, and then the deck can really do anything from there. Yeah, but in general, in all matchups, you will be looking for 1-jump ahead, Pawpsicles, Flaversham, and also Quill, generally.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I want to hit on, which is kind of core to the deck's game plan, I kind of skipped a section there, is just Lucky Dime. So there's 2 Lucky Dimes, right? This card is absolutely critical to your deck's core game plan. It's not how you're going to win every single game, but it does give you some sort of late game and grindy reach against other sort of pseudo control matchups, and it does combo with that Belle, which we talked about. I just want to give you sort of some time to talk quickly about how to correctly utilize Lucky Dime in your opinion.
So you will have to find a turn to play it, which can be tough at times. But one window there usually is if you can delay a Be Prepared, or you're already behind on board, you might just play the dime first and then follow it up with the Be Prepared, and then from there you're playing on a board where, yes, you did reset it, but at least you still have the Lucky Dime available. Other than that, if there's any character that sticks and you can afford to take the turn off, play dime, activate the dime on the character that stick, that's very good. Or later in the game, if you can go to 13 ink on your turn, just the Lucky Dime Belle, activate the dime. Those are usually the turns where you fit in the dime.
Yeah, and that can often be just part of your core win condition with this deck. Before we hop into gameplay, I want to talk about some variations possible for this deck list. So the one I want to hit on specifically is just potentially adding some cards like Gaston. I would not add Developer Brain personally. I know that's popular in a lot of other blue-red lists, but I do think that you can add something like top-end Gaston if you want more reach to be able to dig into your deck for critical cards into the late game. Gaston is also a decent target for something like Lucky Dime. Nowhere near Belle, but it is reasonable, right? And it does dig 3 cards and it allows you to cantrip. It comes at a significant cost, right? The card is somewhat slow, but it is a card that I might be adding into this list. You know, we do have, of course, in the list that you have in front of you right now, the 2 McDuck Manors, which is in here in large part due to the metagame kind of transitioning away from location hate. You know, you saw the Maui's Fish Hooks and all the Ruby Amethyst deck lists. You saw Rise of the Titans in pretty much every Steel deck list. That is less the case on Pixelborn. If you're heading to your store championships, I would not be surprised to see people still on those cards because they could be 1 to 2 weeks behind the metagame. But currently, at least on Pixelborn, McDuck Manor is performing very well because people have decided to tech away from the location hate. But in terms of other additions, for me, it is pretty much just Gaston, right? There's arguments with Heart of Tefiti and specific matchups, but I actually don't think it's particularly useful. And in a lot of those matchups where you would play Heart of Tefiti, you're already kind of favored, or at least it's like the matchup is fine. So I think that for me, if I was going to add any additions, it would probably be the Gastons, and of course you can tweak the numbers on things like Lady Tremaine's and Scars if your metagame calls for it. Also, Queen of Hearts, like if you have a store championship metagame that is dominated by aggro, first of all, you probably shouldn't be playing blue-red. That is this deck weakness. When we talk about matchup spread into the metagame, we can give you the Pixelborn matchup spread metagame where there is not a lot of aggro decks, but if we're being completely honest, you go to your store championship, there's some newer players, there's some players that are playing on a budget. There is a higher likelihood that there will be blue-red, and if you're going into one of those metagames, you should really consider that if you're planning to play a top meta deck like blue-red, which is very, very weak into aggro. But of course, you can increase the Queen of Hearts if you think that would help you. Anything you want to add on that more?
Personally, the way I've built the deck, I had Gastons at the start, but after lots of testing, I don't love the card in the deck anymore because all of the uninkables that we have, I think, are far more important than that, and they can swing the board quickly. And I think it's fine to totally rely on the Flaversham card draw, and then have you play cards that actually impact the board immediately, which is I know the deck's it is inherently good against wheel, but that makes the deck even better against the wheel. And also I think we're on like 21 uninkables, so exactly. It would be hard to add the Gaston without shaving off some of the other uninkables, and I wouldn't really want to do that.
Yep. 100%. And I want to just kind of re-emphasize that you should be mulliganing for that Hiram Flaversham pretty much every single game. It is like the most critical thing to your deck doing what it is trying to do. Is you need your Hiram and you need your draw engine. It is the most powerful draw engine in Lorcana, arguably. I mean, you could make the case that, Whole New World is a very good draw engine as well, but in terms of one-sided asymmetric draw engine, Hiram Flaversham plus the one-cost items is by far the strongest thing you can be doing in Lorcana right now for card draw and card advantage, so you need to be mulliganing for that. Is absolutely critical to blue-red because it does not have access to something like a Whole New World. All right, that concludes the deck. I mean, this is our sort of secrets, our secret deck, our secret spice for the store championships. I think it's incredibly well positioned. I think this deck is very well rounded, has multiple different game plans, is doing tons of unfair things. So without further ado, let's head into the gameplay. All right, going into the game here on the play versus Ruby Amethyst, we're going to stick to that mulligan philosophy with the Flaversham plus the item, get our draw engine online. One Jump Ahead is a very good card to combo as well. Your best sort of combination here is going to be the Pawpsicle, One Jump Ahead, and then the Flaversham. How do you feel about the Ruby Amethyst matchup in general as blue-red?
It historically used to be a terrible matchup, and I think it's gotten quite a bit better with the introduction of Dime, mostly.
Yeah, the Ruby Amethyst deck lists nowadays are very, very tempo-oriented and can have quite aggressive strategies against you, which is actually leads to this being pretty hard.
Yeah, which is definitely what they want to be doing, because earlier sets their plan was also to just have more resources than you, but against the Dime that is not really an option anymore because the Dime's always faster than the gold bounce stuff is.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like I always ink the Queen of Hearts because they always just snake bounce anyway.
Yeah,
I've hit
but I think there's no cost
no
really in
way you play
inking something
McDuck
else for one
versus yeah.
turn.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm playing McDuck mana against them anytime soon. It's like it is very good once you do stabilize and then you play for board without wanting them to have a good prep. But if they just play Cusco here, which is a very good play for them, it's like honestly their preferred play. Then maybe we just go Ink Tala, play Fishbone Quill, Ink Dime, play out the
Hmm.
Queen of Hearts, and then we have to follow up with the Flaversham. Because their preferred curve is actually the Cusco curve in this matchup, just to get more lore in. I think. My
I think
opponent
I disagree with
disagrees.
you.
Okay, then I don't need to be playing the Queen of Hearts. Here we could go for the how far I'll go. It would delay. It wouldn't necessarily delay the Flaversham coming down at all. Because we still got to 6 ink next turn naturally.
Hmm.
So it just seems like the.
Any consideration to play Tala and then just sing how far I go with Tala next turn?
I mean, it's all right. The only issue is. So the upside of playing how far I go this turn is that next turn we can both use the quill and immediately destroy it, which is
Hmm.
decent. I'm not actually sure what is the correct play here because I guess playing the Tala is great if the how far I go finds a 1-cost item next turn, so that we can next turn just Flaversham.
Hmm.
Let's do that instead.
There we
Okay.
go.
It's not the preferred 1-cost item, but it's a 1-cost item.
Yeah. Shield of Virtue in here for multiple reasons to increase um, sort of the count of one cost items is just so important to your Hiram Flaversham game plan. So we like to have 6 rather than 4. Also, the shield helps you deal with locations. Locations are something that this deck is relatively weak to. I hesitate to say like very weak to. Like there's going to be games where you just get absolutely farmed by a location because your opponent curves it out and you just don't have the answers. But the key thing to remember is that the answers actually do exist in your deck. So, okay, another 1 cost. Nice.
This point, it's far too early for the let it go. It's more like we're happy to sing it later in the game as cheap removal, but it's not a card we're looking to play early. And also, I am still entertaining the fact that maybe we want to still quill.
Yeah, I think that's like totally reasonable to quill here potentially.
Yeah, but it doesn't really look like a game where I want to quill. It might just be a game where one jump ahead and how far goes the only ramp we'll need.
Yeah, I do think that we're in a fantastic spot right here, though. Actually, like the games that you lose against Ruby Amethyst, I think they often open up a little bit differently.
Yeah,
And
they open up
like,
with the
yeah,
Cusco, but if they did, we even had the answer to that.
yeah,
So I think you just draw 2 again and then probably play a 6 drop. I
yeah.
don't
Well,
think it's
actually,
necessary to ramp more. So we could, I guess that we could also fit in the Belle and the Quill. Could do like a lot of things. And it might honestly not be bad, right?
so prior to them having on turn 4, so going into 5 ink, so like they don't really have any removal, so you could just turbo ramp with this Quill plus Bell, as you double ink plus the fishbone, and then you basically draw 2 more with. I mean, it seems good.
Yeah,
Seems
also
like
I think I might keep the dime because I think we can afford to be
yeah, for
very
sure. Yeah.
aggressive. So I'm actually quilling the Medusa.
Yep, I think that's absolutely correct. Or at least it's a very solid line. This is actually kind of insane being on 8 ink against the opposing 4.
Oh,
Oh, and there's another one. Oh, there we go.
so we were talking earlier in the deck tech about when you can fit in the dime. If your opponent's on 5 ink and you're on 10, that's also a good turn to play.
Yeah, we were talking about when to play the bell. It's like, oh, you probably shouldn't curve the bell out. And it's like, oh, if you're basically an entire game ahead of your opponent in terms of ink, you can probably fit it in.
Yeah, also maybe gaining 10 lore on the next turn is not too shabby.
Not too shabby. It's kind of funny to draw the backup Hiram as well.
Yeah, the backup Hiram is actually really good, and I'm no matter what the top card is, I think I'm probably inking that over there. The backup Flaversham. Oh.
Oh.
Now I'm not exactly sure anymore. There's also the line where you just play the Flaversham here. You don't use the dime this turn. I don't even think that's a bad line.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad line. It does. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad line. I mean, the only thing is we run into Madame Medusa on the Belle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
Which is like,
then
okay,
also
because like,
they have to.
yeah.
The Belle is still questing, I think. It's just
Yeah.
we don't get the immediate +5, which
Yeah, +5.
is fine.
I mean, these Tamatoas are going to be super nice.
Yeah, only one of
The
them.
Tamatoa plus Flaversham engine, by the way, is just one of your most powerful. I think we quest it.
Yeah. I don't care if they
Medusa. Yeah.
Medusa. I guess I would rather have the Medusa this than my Flaversham, but I doubt it matters at this point. And it's like I don't care about the trade happening.
That's actually a pretty decent point. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna. Yeah, there's some Medusa. That's actually a pretty decent point. I didn't really think about that. Where it's like if you don't quest a Belle, then the Medusa has to hit your Belle and not your Flaversham.
Yeah, it's a very valid point for sure. We could have definitely not quested it as well. Maybe we are too ahead to think it through. Let's start with this.
Yep.
Okay. Finally, card I don't feel bad about quilling. Because last turn we had to get rid of like a Maleficent and another crab. Huh,
Yep,
with these two draws, maybe it does come back to haunt. But I don't know, even if the Belle was still on board now, like it wouldn't. I guess we would be at 16, huh? No, we wouldn't be. It would still have just delayed the questing by one turn. So I think assuming that they know that the getting rid of the card was more important, there was not really any reason to delay the questing at all.
I would have been surprised if our opponent hit the Flaversham and not the Belle, but I do think it was probably correct. They hit us with a well played, but they have no removal.
I mean, there's only one card in their deck that removes it. They're playing 2 copies of it.
Wait, but Be Prepared and Lady Tremaine, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
Awesome. Well, we saw the power of... I mean, that was kind of a ridiculous game. Not going to lie. That was a crazy... we're on 12 link. All right, let's go next.
Okay.
That guy got scammed.
I mean, my entire deck's a scam.
Yeah.
Should I stop the recording and then re-record? Or?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Did you see almost 80% of Podcana listeners think Kara would win in a street fight against me?
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know. Why do they all think that? Just because he has more reach.
All right, into the next match, we're up against Amber Steel on the draw. So one of the big reasons you take Blue-Red to a store championship or to Pixelborn is because, in our opinion, there's 3 decks in Tier 1 right now. That's Blue-Red, Blue-Steel, and Amber Steel. And Blue-Red is fundamentally favored into 2 of those top 3 decks. We also think that it's matchup spread outside of those top 3, so in your Tier 1.5s, consisting of something like Ruby Amethyst, Green Steel, and even whatever color combination soup. We think that this deck is perfectly fine into as well. But the key sort of pitch is you are favored into the other Tier 1 decks. And this is one of those. It's Amber Steel.
Yeah, so now we do have a lot of options to play around the bare necessities. If it is to come down, it definitely takes away the 1 jump ahead anyways, which makes me think maybe it's okay to get rid of the Quill, but when then I get double bare necessities, I'm just missing out on any ramp, so Uh, it's not super likely that happens, but it still might be worth playing around because the cost of it is just getting rid of a Gramma Tala probably. I think that's fine because after the one jump head in this matchup, I would much rather play Quill than Gramma Tala. So the Gramma Tala isn't actually as valuable as it might seem.
Yep. I think playing it's so funny. I think Amber Steel is just like one of the most polarizing decks in the game in terms of like play versus draw.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we're on the draw, they can whole new world us before we can Quill, right? Because they have the turn 3 Robin Hood shift a whole new world, where it's like,
and they even have
yeah,
the Queen line where they can sometimes do it before you can play one jump ahead.
yeah. You get so much equity being able to play against Amber Steel. That being said, it's like completely salvageable. I think it's a good matchup for us. It is interesting that we will be milling 2 of our B prepares on this potential wheel that's coming down on turn 3.
Yeah, I was not willing to Quill to.
Oh,
I was not willing to ink a Pawpsicle to play around the bare necessities. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's pretty good for us, actually. That Benja instead of the Shift Robin Hood, and now we actually get to utilize this Fishbone Quill. Yeah, this is like super good.
That's a matchup where the dime is especially in the early game. It's not needed at all with all the item hate in Bastille. It is good for them that they have diversified their threats and they don't just lose their entire board to the Be Prepared.
Yeah, definitely. Pride Lands is a really interesting addition to the Amber Steel list. I think that it is. It's definitely my favorite version of the list right now. Mostly because I think if I brought Amber Steel to a store championship, people would be on decks that are 1 to 2 weeks old, and they would all have like 4 Benjas, fucking 3, 4 Rise of the Titans, like just infinite item hate to kill flutes.
Yep. And the consensus generally is that's the Ember Steel version that's better in most matchups, but it's just worse against Ruby Amethyst. So I love that version because I love to play Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of decks that I'd bring to the store championship, I think for me, it's blue-red, and I'm being limited on card availability.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just Ruby Amethyst. I think Ruby Amethyst is kind of a mid-tier deck. Like, it's in my opinion, it's a tier 1.5 deck right now, which is crazy coming from my mouth because I'm a big Ruby Amethyst guy. But I do think that you have a lot of like ability to, I don't know, just win games, especially at the store championship level. I mean, the deck is just so consistent. Oh my god!
It looks like they were. It looks. Oh, we also missed. It looks like they were missing an ink, and that's why they sang "Let the Storm Rage On" to find an inkable, or maybe to find the Holy Word that they desperately need. Yeah, missing on an inkable of course hurts a lot here, but can you do? I still really want. So I need 2 Be Prepared in hand because of bare necessities, and I need the Scar in hand because it's my preferred play at times, at least. It's probably our best play we have post Be Prep. I'm thinking the Tremaine is the one that goes.
I was thinking Tremaine play Medusa, set up for turn 7, just like B prep, and then you can time walk the board with another B prep.
I mean, also this is a decision. Benja quests for 1 more, but Robin Hood is shiftable.
That. It's a decision. It's a definitely decision. It's a decision I wasn't thinking about. But yeah, my brain was kind of just like, oh, Benja for sure. There it is.
That might be a tough game. And it honestly wouldn't have been that tough if we just if we drew an ink, we would have a 6/1 Scar on the board, and they have 1 HP Pride Lance. And we have an extra ink. That's probably fine. So now it's definitely an uphill battle.
We definitely got a game on our hands here. Interesting.
So this trade, there's a lot of value in it, but I would also love to see how far I go.
Yeah.
Not really looking to sing Let It Go, but maybe I should be.
It's a shift queen, right? So that would give them 2 ink
Oh, right.
for what it's worth.
Yeah, okay, then that ends the conversation. But I think even for one, I wouldn't really be looking to do it here. I think I just want to ramp this turn, as crazy as that sounds. I don't feel like playing Flaversham and drawing cards and then getting wheeled away again.
Yeah.
I think I start with Pawpsicle. Might still want to play a 6 cost off the top. That would have been a great card this time.
Yeah.
And then I just play how far I go and let it go. One jump ahead, that's what it's called. You don't really have good singers soon. And so you just turbo vamp, take out a little bit of the threat. And keep stalling for Be Prepared and Scars to somewhat get back onto the board. I think if you play Flaversham this turn, you're like asking to lose. Grab your sword.
It's interesting now because the opponent, for what it's worth, has information that we are playing like scars in our deck, which is not always stock standard. But I don't know if it affects their play at all.
We also 1 ink of.
Yeah, that's pretty annoying.
Of the shield to clear off the void lands. And technically, we could just take a turn off, play something else. But first of all, they gain lots of loss Hanged of Foil. We might not have this hand next turn.
Okay.
Sure. I'm just not sure what to ink yet. It's either Let It Go or the Manor.
Yeah.
Let It Go is niche, but good against the Cinderella that they sometimes play.
Could also... Yeah,
I thought about it, but...
Yeah.
Then I realized that it's a bit silly to think about. I don't know if we do find time for this. This has...
Yeah, I mean, McDuck Manor will farm a Amber Steel. Listen, the question is, like, okay, we're clearly not the beatdown in this matchup, so, like... Do we have time and room to do that?
I think using a single Pawpsicle is also has quite a bit of value here.
So we know he has Grab Your Sword, for what it's worth. So I think it's pretty reasonable.
I mean, the only problem is that like it still dies to Zeus and Strength, but also I think the upside that it potentially has is quite a bit higher than the cost of getting rid of one of the Pawpsicles here.
This is going to be a tight game for sure.
Yep. The Rapunzel line.
Yep.
That,
which I think is fine for us. Like,
yeah,
I think
that's one of the weaker plays they could have had, for sure.
Because we can really compete with our card draw with Flaversham and then the Tamatoa backup.
There's also one
Okay.
Scar left in the deck, as we're playing 3 Scar for B prep.
Yep. We also have the Queen of Hearts that we could rip as well as Maui, things like that.
Yes. So ripping the Scar here or Maui is probably better than just setting up the Tamatoa, and I think that's what we have to play towards.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we like have to let it go this Rapunzel as well. Oh, never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, I guess I have to get rid of the 2 questing power and just play as if Whole New World doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think so.
Because they also telegraphed that they don't have it yet, and we're not in a good spot, so which usually means you have to be taking these sort of risks to get back into the game. That tells us they still don't have Whole New World.
Yeah, which is good for us.
Yeah. Although the Let It Go would have been quite handy next turn to sing with Medusa, for example.
The thing is, if we can stabilize this board, we're about to turn on like probably the most insane draw engine in all of Lorcana, which is like Tamatoa, grab Pawpsicle, Quest.
Yeah. If they give us
yeah,
the time, we will run away with the game. It's just, so far, they didn't give us a breather ever.
Yeah. Okay.
So right now we could clear both Pride lands at least.
Yep.
I think that's alright.
I think that you clear both Prylands and B prep.
Why be prep?
Oh no, I was just thinking about clearing both of them. But yeah, Shield of Virtue.
I think I just set up the Krabby Crab.
Okay.
And then still use this Flaversham to challenge.
Yep. Makes sense.
I wish I could have kept the backup
Yeah.
Flaversham, but
I know. I
been
feel like
drawing
that's
a
like
lot of
multiple times in
uninhibited
this
game.
place. Yeah, I mean that's yeah. That's like multiple times in this play session where we rip the uninkable.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's the deal you make with 21.
But
But
how many did we draw yet? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, and we quilled some, didn't we? Yeah, we quilled at least 2, I think. It's like 12 uninkables in the top half. I guess it's only a little bit up above what you'd expect. It's just they were timed in a weird way. And a lot of the time we played the inkables.
mhm.
Yeah, so this Cinderella should be... We should be able to deal with it, even if it is very threatening. There's finally the Grab Your Sword. And the Strength, so that they take out the Crab, but then we take out Cinderella on the backswing, and we're
Yeah.
chilling.
Feels good for us, actually. They don't hit our draw engine.
Yeah. So we could... There's the line where you use a Pawpsicle on the Medusa so it can like double trade. I think that's...
Really?
I guess
like
we
I'd
don't
rather
need
draw
it
2
because we
cards.
have the Medusa.
Yeah, I feel like I'd rather draw 2 cards and then drop the
Yeah,
Medusa to kill
we would draw 2 cards either way. I would just destroy the shield after using it. So that's not the issue, but I guess leaving the extra item on the board and just using the Medusa is fine. It just means we can't play stuff like Crab. Also, I might just play I might just play something like Maleficent if we draw it instead of taking the trade. At this point, I think we definitely shouldn't leave the area and we should just play around the top deck Holy World.
Yep.
Which means I just hard play this. Kinda just want to ink a card. Could just play Maleficent this turn. But I think let's hedge it a little bit towards closing out the game like this. Could have also just sang Let It Go and keep a 4-2, have them on one more ink, but it's not like the 4-2 does that much either. And then we are also on one less ink.
Okay. So yeah.
So from here on we run away with the game, but that was definitely an uphill battle.
Yep, and there's the dime as well to close it out in speedy fashion.
Yeah, or a few bells. I think we have a lot of them left still.
Yep, probably will see a concession from our opponent here, and there it is.
GG.
All right, that concludes our blue-red deck tech and lead up to the set championships. Like I said, this is one we've had in our back pocket, been tuning for a while. We're really happy with where the list landed. We think it's very divergent from some of the populars out there. We might get a bit of flack for not playing Develop Your Brain, but I honestly think it's correct at this point. The McDuck Manors, in particular, I do think they're a meta call for your local meta at your store championship. If your store championship players are still playing decks that are like 1 to 2 weeks old and have tons and tons of like location removal in them, maybe it's not the correct play. But overall, just it can be very, very powerful against specific matchups. Overall, I'm very happy with the list. Really like the Bells. I think Belle is a card that, when not utilized correctly, can look very weak in this metagame because it gets 1-for-1 traded by one of the most popular cards in the metagame, which is Madame Medusa. That being said, like the way we ended up on this deck list initially, or at least kind of started going down this route, was I was trying to convince Moyen to put one Belle in the blue-red list to have like an endgame inevitability, because I felt like in the mirror it just gave you so much reach. It was just so powerful, and you were effectively drawing your entire deck. So it's like, we can just combo towards this card. Turns out it's just kind of good overall. You just have to not play it like on turn 4 hoping it's going to stick. Of course, unless in like game 1 when you're on 12 ink, your opponent's on 6 ink. But let's be real, it's kind of an outlier. Still, I think Belle, really the big takeaway from this deck tech is how far I'll go. I think that is a new card in blue-red that is making waves. I think, and then I think Belle is just a fantastic addition to the deck. And despite Madame Medusa being one of those popular cards in the game, I think that Belle absolutely still does its job. Moyen, anything you want to say before we close out the deck tech?
Yeah, so to me, this deck, even though it was a fine deck before, when I played this without how far I go in comparison to playing this version now, it's like night and day. I think the deck has become so much better, and it's like, it's not just a deck with niche good matchups. I think it's like a real deck with this inclusion, and a really, really scary deck as well. Also, I think the biggest thing, one thing that's missing in the deck is that a lot of people are playing is like the Judy Hops. And I think holding a card in this deck for a long time has like a huge cost in comparison, because you're low on inkables, you want to be ramping, with the Quill down, you want to ink 2 cards a turn a lot, and so holding it back is just such a high cost, and then it's only really good against the Lucky Time. So I've been finding more success without it, and I think that the McDuck Manor is actually a great card in the mirror to set up boards that don't just get 2-for-1 by a Maleficent, or get wiped by the Be Prepared, but also have something behind that.
Yeah, so I was also a big Judy Hopps hater. That was all like that's how we kind of started. I was like, dude, Judy Hopps sucks. Even if you hit dime, it sucks. Like, so the thing is, like, if you Judy Hopps a dime, it's good tempo. Like, it's a very expensive thing for your opponent to recur out of the graveyard, which, by the way, they can with Tamatoa. So it's like it doesn't go away forever. But the problem was is that the deck was often playing one Judy Hopps, and the idea behind one Judy Hopps is like, okay, you're in a long, grindy, attrition-based matchup. You're basically drawing your entire deck. You hit the dime, and that's going to, like disrupt your opponent significantly. It's like it's relevant sometimes, but ultimately, like when you're in the long, long, long grindy matchups, your opponent is just going to play their Tamatoa, recur it, play it again. It's like that is relevant. You're going to time lock them 7 ink, and effectively a quest with Tamatoa. But it was like, do I want this 2/3 in my deck? Because I really only want to be hitting dime with it. My opponent's pretty much is rarely playing dime on turn 7. If they are, it's like they're not even activating it for a while. They're just gonna play a turn 8 Tamatoa, put it back in the hand. It was like, I ultimately didn't think, okay, if you Judy Hopps the dime, it's not a bad play. But Judy Hopps the card is a bad card. Was basically the thesis. Like let's just put better cards in the deck overall. Because yeah, I mean that's kind of the entire thesis of the deck, right? Is we've cut some of these cards that people have been adding as like silver bullets, or they've been adding to, they've had to develop your brain to filter deeper into the deck. It's like what if all of our cards or all of our, most of them were just hits. Like we just want to draw them anyway, and that's kind of where we landed. I think that in addition to the bells. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for watching this blue-red deck tech. Good luck at your store championships. Let us know if you'll be playing this Sapphire Ruby list, and let us know what you think. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video.